Australians have witnessed some of the worst scenes that we've seen on our television with what regard to the brutalisation of animals. Our office has received so many distressed calls, and this really has to end. The Greens have before the Senate a bill to end the live export trade. Minister Ludwig is becoming increasingly unbelievable in his attempts to defend this industry. The government has made out it has regulations in place to address animal welfare. We've seen another horrific example of how meaningless this is. Those regulations, known as SCAS, were always just a media management tool to try and placate the public that the government had things under control. But a desk in Canberra cannot control animal welfare issues in Pakistan. They have no currency in other countries. The government has now admitted that those regulations cannot end this cruelty. They've said that the situation that we saw in Pakistan, where the sheep were brutalised, battered, and in some cases buried alive, could occur in any other country that takes our live animal export trade. The Greens will continue to push for an end to this trade. We can have a win-win here. We can have a win to reduce the animal suffering and create thousands of jobs across regional Australia and give a boost to local economies. Many farmers and livestock producers, particularly in Western Australia, have been contacting me in recent weeks since this story has broken. Many of them are worried about how their animals are going to be processed, and I'm pleased that the Greens are able to work closely with the Meat Workers Union. We very much support their plan to phase out the industry by 2014. This has to be the transition plan that the government gets behind. This is where the government has a responsibility to the industry, to the farmers. Many of these farmers are very distressed about what they see happening to their livestock. They saw their animals, those sheep, arrive at the Perth pens before leaving on the shipment, very healthy. And then those images that they had to witness last night of those sheep under such appalling conditions with such cruelty, I know how distressing it must have been for them. And it doesn't have to be this way. We need to get back to ensuring that animal cruelty has no place in the meat trade in this country. And we can achieve that by processing the meat in Australia and ensuring we have that jobs growth that is so urgently needed across regional Australia. I'm pleased to be here with Courtney from the Meat Workers Union, and I'll hand over to Grant.
Thanks, Lee. It's an interesting debate that's been going on about live animal exports for my entire working life. I've been working in the industry for 30 years. I'm a third generation meat worker. My father was a meat worker, he's still working now. My grandfather also was a meat worker and a wharfie. I've actually witnessed in my lifetime 150 plants close in Australia, and there's about 40,000 direct job losses as well. And we're talking about meat workers' jobs, we're not talking about any associated jobs surrounding the industry. The Greens are doing a fantastic job trying to introduce bills in Parliament in relation to a change in live animal export policy. Only recently, last year, at the National ALP conference, we nearly got a motion up. The motion was lost by 17 votes about the government, taking on board AMIU policy, which is about a genuine transition out of the live animal export industry. A genuine transition. This is not about targeting producers, it's not about targeting processors, it's about making sure that we've got value adding, we've got jobs in Australia for my kids and for your kids into the future if they don't want to end up going to university or doing some other degree. It's a big issue, and when it comes to animal welfare, our members across the country are probably the best when it comes to animal welfare, when it comes to processing. All animals in Australia are stunned at export sites. The arguments associated with the reasons why you've got to export animals live about religious beliefs are simply a furphy. They are clearly a furphy. All of our export plants in Australia generally have halal accredited slaughtermen that actually bless each particular animal prior to being stunned and stuck for that purpose. The arguments associated with the reasons why they've got to take live animal exports because there's no refrigeration in the Middle East is another furphy. Now, after all, their cost of living over there is higher than ours. Usually their wages are higher than ours and their terms and conditions of employment are higher than ours. So why would we send our animals over there to be processed? The AMIU stands with the Greens to try and change live animal export policy, and we would like to think in the future that the Gillard government will clearly see some sense here and make sure that we've got value adding in Australia for all Australian workers. Thanks very much for your time.